Melanie, at the age of 16, you had to have heart surgery during which you had a near-death experience. Could you explain the history leading up to this event? Of course. About a year earlier, I was diagnosed with a heart defect, an atrial septal defect that I actually had since birth, but it had not been detected until then, so I had to have surgery. Up until then, my life had been very unhappy. So I had a lot of bad experiences in my childhood and youth, such as abuse, violence, and the fear of death. And that's why this heart surgery did not scare me. Let's put it that way. I went to the hospital alone and had to go through it all on my own. Tell me, Melanie, why didn't this operation scare you? I actually saw it as a chance to exit this life, this unhappy, bad life. And what did you experience during this near-death situation? Back then, such surgery was still performed by connecting the heart to a heart-lung machine, whereas nowadays this is only done by means of a catheter. As well, the surgeons at the time weren't very good at bringing me back skillfully. They had to make several attempts to resuscitate me and had even already given up on me to some extent. One of the physicians, however, preferred persevering, so he said, "We'll carry on." And I was watching all this from above, thus also seeing myself lying on the operating table. A part of me had left my body and was seeing what was going on down there, what the physicians were saying, and what they were doing. I also remember exactly what music was playing on the radio at that point in time. Well, this was the one level I was perceiving. At some point, I gradually withdrew from this situation. Today, I would describe it all as several levels that I was experiencing simultaneously. First, what was going on here on Earth in this surgery room. Thereafter, what was to follow. So the next thing I was seeing was a very beautiful light, sending out a wonderful feeling of a love that I had never known at all before. And that, as far as I can remember, I was at first afraid of, because this was such an inconceivable feeling. Thereafter, I then saw the film of my life, as people usually refer to it. But for me, this common term, I'd say, does not fully describe this film of my life, because I experienced it in a way that I was reliving each individual situation of my life, but not only from my point of view, but first of all, with all of my feelings, just emotionally. And all of this accompanied by the feelings and sentiments of the other people involved in this situation. And in addition, including every subsequent situation or the one that could have followed, with every consequence. And this is, as I see it, a volume of data that cannot be grasped at all with a normal mind. And that's why this phenomenon is referred to as the film of life. I was still quite young back then. I was only 16 years old and not yet at an advanced age. But even taking this into account, it was an incredibly vast volume of data. So I was seeing landscapes, beautiful landscapes, and at some point, I can't tell you how long this situation took, as the sense of time is completely different in such a state of being. The situation here on Earth, in this surgery room, may probably have lasted only a few minutes, but at some point, I then heard a voice that even now I still cannot identify as male or female. There was as well a being which appeared that actually was light, but also in this case, I cannot say whether it was male or female. And it said I could now decide which path I wished to take. That is, whether I would like to stay in the world beyond, or whether I preferred to return to my earthly life. Then it also showed me that it was, in fact, important for me to go back, as I would have a very important task, and because I was needed. You said you saw a landscape during this near-death experience. What was this landscape like? Well, there was a lake with very beautiful green areas behind, sort of like a distant forest. It was just simply a very beautiful scene. But I can't put it into words, as I have never seen anything like it before. It was just a very beautiful image that remained in my thoughts. Somehow I felt that it was forming a bond of the heart between nature and me, and thereby was even to be strengthened. And it did. You said you first were observing the surgery procedures from a certain height, and that this perspective changed when you were seeing your film of life. Yes, the perspective changed, that's right, but I was still observing this situation. Thereafter, however, from further away. And this figure, this being that addressed you, you only remember as a being of light? Yes, in the form of a being of light and as a voice. And that's a voice I heard again and again, and that I will never forget. In the years that followed, you experienced a further after-death contact. During those years, I actually experienced more. My husband had died later on, and afterwards I saw him again and again and spoke to him. My second husband now has also passed on, and every now and then there is some contact with him as well. And it also happened once that I could see when someone was soon going to die. Can you relate an after-death contact you remember particularly well? Yes, it was the first encounter with my first husband. And this was really, well, I was at home and suddenly it felt as if a hand was on my shoulder. So I turned around and saw him standing there. He thanked me for everything I had done, also for our son, and that I am doing everything very well. Did you see or hear him? I saw him and I heard him, actually both. Did he still look the same as he did when he was alive? Yes, but now his appearance was rather very bright. Otherwise, he looked just as he did when he was alive, before the illness. Later on, you saw him again? Yes, that's right. On what occasions? Particularly when I was not feeling well, when I was in despair, so in situations where I needed advice. Then you could say that he continued accompanying you a little further in your life from the world of spirit. Yes, that's right. Did you as well see your second husband? Yes, I saw him as well, shortly after his death, but not since. What impact did these exceptional experiences have on your life and your worldview? Immediately after the heart surgery, I initially did not know any more about it. Maybe I repressed it. In other words, the experience was just simply gone, and I was living a normal life. I finished school, I did an apprenticeship, I got married early and had a child. At some point, my husband became seriously ill, and only then, during the time of his illness and subsequent death, did those experiences reappear intensely, as well as through this after-death contact with him. And then, over time, many things were changing, and I was also experiencing a lot of the spiritual. I attended some seminars on this topic. However, what I experienced there was often a deterrent for me. So I later on also started working in a small alternative funeral parlor. I volunteered at a children's hospice, and I was working in an end of life care facility. And all of this helped me a lot, as this gave me a completely different view of death and a completely different, well, I used to say, I can see behind the veil and can then pass this on to people, giving them hope and strength in dying. As for me, a very important part when practicing healing work is that now I am aware of a different approach to it. Because now I am aware of more, I feel more, I see more, and this, of course, is very useful for me in my work. What was the most important insight you gained from this near-death experience? It was this love that I felt and that changed my whole life, as I never knew anything like it in my childhood. And feeling this love and this all oneness, to know that I am love, has changed my life in the sense that now I can meet people in love and I am allowed to accompany them. How do you see it? Do we have to be afraid of dying? Oh no, you don't have to be afraid of dying. But of course, you could be afraid of the pain that might come with it, or of the way someone has to die. But in these cases, too, there is a lot of help available nowadays. I, at least, am not afraid of dying in itself, and I don't think anyone else needs to be afraid of it either. You have as well accompanied people in their dying process. What kind of experiences did you have in doing so? In my experience, end-of-life care has shown that for many people, once everything has been sorted out and they are well accompanied and their fear of death has been taken away, there can be a very peaceful passing away. Children, as I have found out, often know very well that they are about to die, but they are without any fear at all. Quite to the contrary, for them, it is a kind of homecoming. It usually only becomes difficult, even for the children, in the case where their parents cling to them. As a mortician, I also see death as, well, most people look very beautiful and peaceful when they have died. This as well shows me that you don't have to be afraid of death. So we could say that we are still being accompanied by the world beyond in these situations as well. Yes, certainly. We accompany the deceased even longer. The relatives are working together with us, helping with washing and dressing the deceased. And as for me, I can say quite clearly that the soul is still there for about 3 days, and that it is being accompanied. And a lot can still be done for the deceased during this time. Melanie, thank you very much for the interview. Thank you.